We are trying, during all these discussions and talks here, is to see if we cannot radically bring about a transformation of the mind. Not accept things as they are, but to understand it, to go into it, to examine it, give your heart and your mind with everything that you have to find out a way of living differently.
In a world where everyone and everything is trying to make you dependent and intoxicated by capturing your senses, Jiddu Krishnamurti was a light who wanted you to be free in the truest sense. An extraordinary man, and yes, he was just a man who dedicated his life to serious self-inquiry and worked to deliver this message to us all. In a world where hunger for power and control is ripping humanity apart, he left the world of power and influence, dismantled the Order of the Star in the East and the Theosophical Society to give power back to the people, back to the world. This was not political or monetary power, but true power of self-realization. A man whose method is truly remarkable, revolutionary, and focuses on just one thing: serious, focused questioning of self and going deep within to understanding one's true nature. This is a story of a modern-day Messiah who gave up religion, power, and authority to find the one truth. Before the world projected destiny onto him, before organizations were built around his name, before anyone spoke of world teachers and cosmic purpose, there was simply a boy. A fragile, quiet child born in 1895 in the small South Indian town of Madanapalli. His name was Jiddu Krishnamurti. He did not arrive with signs of greatness. He did not display brilliance or confidence. He was physically weak, emotionally sensitive, and often ill. Teachers found him slow, relatives found him absent-minded. He drifted, not out of intelligence, but out of inwardness. Krishnamurti seemed to live slightly behind the eyes, as if his attention was always elsewhere. But in those early years, there was one constant, one emotional center that gave his world stability: his mother. By all accounts, she was deeply affectionate, protective, and attentive. In a strict Brahmin household, she provided warmth rather than discipline, care rather than pressure. For a child as sensitive as Krishnamurti, this mattered more than anyone realized. She was not just a parent, she was his psychological anchor. And then, when Krishnamurti was around 10 years old, she passed away. The sudden removal of emotional safety, the disappearance of unconditional presence, the loss of a figure who loved without expectation. For a child already inward, this loss did not explode outward. It turned inward. Krishnamurti did not become rebellious. He did not become angry. He became detached. After his mother's death, Krishnamurti's emotional world narrowed. He became intensely attached to his younger brother Nitya. Nitya was not just family. He became continuity, safety, presence. In 1909, when Krishnamurti was about 14, his life took a decisive turn. His father, seeking stability and purpose, brought his sons to the headquarters of the Theosophical Society in Adyar near Madras. This was a place filled with ideas of karma, evolution of the soul, hidden masters, and cosmic destiny. For a boy who had lost his mother, lost emotional grounding, and lived quietly inside himself, this world offered something powerful: meaning. At Adyar, Krishnamurti was noticed by Charles Webster Leadbeater. Leadbeater claimed to see auras. he claimed to read spiritual potential. And what he claimed to see around Krishnamurti stunned him. An aura without ego, without ambition, without self-assertion. To Leadbeater, this was not weakness. It was emptiness. And emptiness in Theosophical thought meant readiness. A vessel, a boy who could be filled. And this is where the death of Krishnamurti's mother becomes very crucial. Because a child who loses early emotional grounding is often unconsciously open to external structures of meaning. Theosophy did not just offer explanation, it offered belonging. It offered cosmic order in place of emotional chaos. It offered destiny in place of loss. Soon, the president of the society, Annie Besant, took deepest interest in the boy. She saw in him what Leadbeater saw, or perhaps what she needed to see. She took legal guardianship of Krishnamurti and Nitya. Their father resisted. He fought in the court. He lost. And once again, Krishnamurti was separated from family. Once again, a primary emotional structure was removed. But this time, the loss was masked as purpose. He was educated, trained, refined, taught how to speak, how to dress, how to behave. Surrounded by adults who spoke constantly of his destiny, to the world, he was becoming something extraordinary. But inwardly, the patterns were repeating. Attachment followed by removal, followed by replacement with ideology. And yet, something in Krishnamurti remained untouched. A quiet skepticism, a watchfulness. He obeyed, he learned, he absorbed, but he did not believe. Not completely. The wound was still there, waiting. And it would take another death, far more devastating, to finally tear belief apart completely. By the early 1910s, the boy who had once drifted quietly through life was no longer allowed to be ordinary. Jiddu Krishnamurti was being transformed. Carefully, deliberately, into something the world was meant to recognize. He was now spoken of in hushed, reverent tones, not as a thinker, not as a seeker, but as destiny. The Theosophical Society declared that a great spiritual presence, the world teacher, would soon manifest through him. Pamphlets were printed, lectures were organized, expectations spread across continents. In 1911, the Order of the Star in the East was created, solely for him. An organization whose purpose was not to seek truth, but to prepare humanity for him. Krishnamurti traveled through Europe and America. Crowds gathered to see him. People listened for sign of revelation in his words. And through all of this, amid the applause, the reverence, the pressure, there was one figure who never left his side. His brother, Nitya Krishnamurti. Nitya was more than just family. He was stability. Where Krishnamurti was fragile, Nitya was grounded. Where Krishnamurti was inward, Nitya was practical. He shielded him from the pressure, translated the world for him, absorbed emotional shocks that Krishnamurti could not. If Krishnamurti was the face of prophecy, Nitya was the quiet spine holding it upright. The Theosophists understood this bond. They spoke of it mystically, as two-souled linked across timelines, working together for a cosmic purpose. And Krishnamurti believed them. After the death of his mother, Nitya had become his emotional continuity, his reassurance that something in life would not vanish. So when Nitya's health began to fail in early 1920s, the assurances came quickly. The masters would protect him, they said. Destiny required him. Karma would not allow his death. Krishnamurti clung to these promises like anything he had been taught to. Nitya was sent to Ojai, California, hoping the climate would help his lungs. Krishnamurti followed, staying close, refusing to leave his side. But the illness did not recede, and in 1925, Nitya died. There was no cosmic intervention, no karmic exception, no protection, just death. For Krishnamurti, this was not grief alone. This was annihilation. Everything he had been taught collapsed in a single moment. The masters had failed. The prophecies had failed. The belief that destiny protected the chosen had failed. The one person he could not imagine losing, the one emotional constant since his mother's death, was gone. Witnesses described him as shattered, not dramatic, not hysterical, but emptied, withdrawn into long silences, unable to reconcile belief with reality. And soon after, something extraordinary began to happen. Krishnamurti experienced what he later called the process. Intense physical pain, periods of disassociation, moments of absolute stillness. But this was not a spiritual awakening in the traditional sense. It was a psychological collapse of belief. What died with Nitya was not just a brother. It was the entire structure of authority Krishnamurti had leaned on. For the first time, he saw clearly that beliefs offer comfort, not truth. That authority promises certainty, not understanding. That following replaces seeing. And the world teacher, the identity built around him, began to feel false. The boy groomed to lead humanity had discovered something far more dangerous. That no one could lead him, that no system could protect him. That truth, if it existed at all, could not belong to belief. Krishnamurti did not reject the world yet, but inwardly something had ended, and something irreversible had begun. By the late 1920s, the world still saw him as a promise, as the future, as the one who would speak for something higher than humanity itself. But inwardly, Jiddu Krishnamurti had already crossed the line, from which there was no return. The death of his brother had not made him bitter. It had made him clear. Clear about the danger of belief. Clear about subtle violence of authority. Clear about how easily truth is replaced by comfort. Yet outwardly, the structure around him remained intact. The order of the star in the east continued to grow. Thousands still believed, expectations still gathered around his name, and Krishnamurti knew something unbearable. Every word he spoke, every silence, every hesitation was being interpreted as revelation. He was no longer allowed to be honest. So in 1929, at a gathering in Omen in Netherlands, Krishnamurti stood before an audience that had come to celebrate him. They expected guidance. They expected affirmation. They expected the next step towards fulfillment. What they received instead was dismantling. Krishnamurti began quietly, not with anger, not with rebellion, but with clarity. He said, "I maintain that truth is a pathless land, and you cannot approach it by any path whatsoever, by any religion, by any sect." Then without drama, he did the unthinkable. He dissolved the order of the star in the east, the organization built for him, the movement created to announce him, the structure that gave him global authority. gone. He returned the land, the money, the titles. He refused leadership. He refused discipleship. Refused to replace one system with another. And then he said something even more unsettling. I do not want followers. For many in the audience, this was not liberation, it was betrayal. Years of devotion evaporated in a single speech. Lives reorganized around belief suddenly stood exposed. But Krishnamurti did not waver. He explained that the moment you follow another, you stop seeing for yourself. That authority, spiritual or psychological, is the enemy of understanding. That truth cannot be organized without being destroyed. What made this moment extraordinary was not its courage, it was its cost. Krishnamurti walked away from power without replacing it. He offered no alternative belief, no new doctrine, no improved system, only responsibility. Responsibility placed back on the individual. For the first time in his life, he was no longer protected by destiny, prophecy, or structure. He stood alone, and in doing so, he dismantled not just an organization, but the very idea that freedom cannot be given by another human being. This was not an act of a guru. This is an act of a man who had lost everything he depended on and discovered that truth does not arrive through belief, only through seeing. After 1929, Jiddu Krishnamurti did something unusual. He did not retreat into silence. He spoke constantly. For the next 5 decades, he traveled across India, Europe, and America, giving talks to packed halls, small groups, and quiet gatherings. But he refused to be called a teacher. He insisted that he was not offering a method, not delivering doctrine, not transmitting truth. What he was doing, he said, was pointing. Again and again, he returned to one central question. Can the observer observe without the observer? This was not philosophy. It was an invitation to watch the mind in real time. Krishnamurti rejected all spiritual techniques. No meditation practices, no breathing systems, no mantras. Because he said the moment you follow a method, you are moving according to the past, and the truth exists only in the present. He spoke often about fear not as an emotion to be managed, but as something created by thought itself. Thought breeds fear, and where there is fear, there is no love. He dismantled the idea of psychological time, the belief that we will become free tomorrow. What disturbed people most was that he offered no reassurances, no hope for gradual improvement, no promise of enlightenment, only an uncomfortable demand to observe oneself completely, without justification, without condemnation, without escape. Silence itself became part of his teaching. He would stop mid-sentence, wait, let the discomfort settle, because he believed truth emerges not through answers, but through attention. And perhaps this is why he remains difficult to categorize. He did not build a following, he dismantled the need for one. He did not give people meaning, he removed their illusions. Krishnamurti did not want to be remembered. He wanted you to see, and then to walk alone. In 1986, Jiddu Krishnamurti died quietly. There were no successors, no appointed interpreters, no final revelation, just notebooks, recordings, and long stretches of silence. This perhaps was his final refusal. Krishnamurti spent his life undoing what life had done to him. The loss of his mother taught him impermanence. The loss of his brother shattered belief. And the collapse of the prophecy freed him from authority. What remained was not a philosophy, but a demand. That you look at yourself without comfort. That you observe fear without escape. That you see thought not as a guide, but as a conditioned response. He did not promise peace. He did not offer salvation. He did not build a path, because to him, the very idea of a path meant following someone else's footsteps. And where there is following, there is no freedom. Krishnamurti once said, "You are the world, and the world is you." If that is true, then change cannot come from belief, systems, or leaders. It can only begin when you look honestly, silently, without asking to be led. No teacher, no method, no escape, only attention. And that was his revolution. Namaste.
But that depends on you and not somebody else. Because in this there is no teacher, no pupil, there is no leader, there is no guru, there is no master, no savior. You yourself are the teacher and the pupil, you are the master, you are the guru, you are the leader. You are everything.